When we think of mutants, we immediately picture beings with incredible, almost unstoppable powers, like Magneto, Wolverine, and Cyclops. But while some mutants can easily go toe-to-toe with the strongest characters on Earth, others have powers that do more harm than good. With that in mind, Marvel decided to divide and categorize mutants into different classes. But before we get into what those categories are and who belongs in each one, I want to clearly and directly explain what a mutant actually is. Basically, a mutant is an individual born with a unique genetic trait, the X gene. This gene is what grants the individual superhuman abilities or characteristics. These abilities usually manifest during puberty, but in some cases they can appear earlier or later. For those who are into Harry Potter, it's similar to how the wizarding gene works. Spider-Man and Captain America, for example, are not considered mutants because their genetics were altered externally and artificially, not because of the X gene. The X gene needs to be present from birth. It's not enough to simply have powers or modified genetics. For instance, Mayday Parker, the daughter of Spider-Man from the MC2 timeline, was born with enhanced genetics but doesn't have the X gene. Another example is the Inhumans. They are born with powers but not because of the X gene, so in both cases they are not considered mutants. Now that we've explained what it means to be a mutant in the Marvel Universe, let's move on to the classifications, from the lowest to the highest. Epsilon level mutants. An Epsilon mutant is the kind of person who really got the short end of the stick in life. In a universe where you can be born with the ability to control lightning, read minds, or teleport, these individuals are born with the weakest or even completely useless powers, which often end up being more of a burden than a benefit. These mutants are not useful in combat and pose no threat. In many cases, their mutation is purely cosmetic. Some examples of Epsilon mutants are Beak, Ugly John, Skin, among others. The Epsilon category is the second most common among mutants. Beta mutants are the most common category among mutants. Within this group, some have potentially dangerous powers. However, they don't pose a global threat and have notable limitations. Others may have powers as strong as those in higher categories, but with drawbacks, whether in appearance, making them visibly different from a regular human, like Mystique, Nightcrawler, and Beast, or flaws in the powers themselves. A good example is Rogue, who in her early years under Mystique's care struggled to control her powers, often hurting others and herself in the process. Other examples of beta-level mutants include Sabretooth, Gambit, and Angel. Alpha-level mutants. Before the concept of Omega-level mutants was introduced, Alpha-level mutants were considered the elite, the most powerful class of mutants. In fact, several mutants who are now classified as Omega, such as Magneto, Storm, and John Grey, spent many years being labeled as Alpha, but after the Omega level was established, Alpha came to represent the second most powerful class of mutants. Alpha mutants have enough power to pose a global threat and are extremely powerful and useful. They usually maintain a normal physical appearance, without deformities, allowing them to blend in easily with regular humans. What sets them apart from Omega mutants is that Alpha mutants have limits. They can cause mass destruction, but they're not omnipotent. Their powers can be exhausted or weakened. Some examples of alpha-level mutants include Charles Xavier, Wolverine, Cyclops, Havoc, Polaris, Bishop, Cable, Sunfire, Namor, Sebastian Shaw, and Mr. Sinister. Omega-level mutants. Now we've reached the elite of the elite, the most powerful mutants of all. Omega is the highest and most powerful classification. Some of these mutants have the ability to alter reality, and many are capable of destroying entire civilization. To be considered Omega, a mutant's powers must have no upper limits, meaning their potential is virtually limitless. For example, Storm can create violent storms for hours without effort. An Omega-level mutant never runs out of ammo, so to speak. Some, like Franklin Richards and Proteus, can even rewrite reality itself. The officially recognized Omega-level mutants are Monarch, Iceman, Elixir, Jean Grey, Legion, Magneto, Proteus, Mr. M, Storm, Strife, Exodus, Kid Omega, Powerhouse, Vulcan, Hope Summers, and Cassandra Nova. You might have noticed that some characters seem to be in the wrong categories. Mutant classification can be confusing, especially because the X-Men stories have gone through countless changes over the years. For example, Jean Grey and Franklin Richards were considered alpha-level mutants back in the 90s, but today they're recognized as Omega-level. It's also possible for a mutant's classification to change as their powers evolve. In the Messiah Complex storyline, for instance, Rogue is reclassified from Beta to Alpha after gaining full control of her abilities. The opposite can happen too, if a mutant begins to show flaws or loses control of their powers. Cyclops, for example, couldn't control his optic blasts for a while due to trauma, making him a danger to both others and himself. There are even cases where a mutant can fall into two classifications depending on their different abilities. Wolverine's enhanced senses are considered Beta, but his healing factor is Alpha. In such situations, the mutant is classified based on their strongest set of powers.